Hello all and welcome to Telos 1.1.1, the second part of our Halloween update, which is much more exciting than the first part. Here we will be looking at the loot rework. First off, all bags have been completely remodeled to look a little bit less, voxely. They didn't particularly look amazing, but we do understand that a lot of the community did enjoy them for the sentimental value that they had, but we wanted them to look a little bit more exciting. Bag size will now scale with the amount of items that are held within, meaning you can get a totally legitimate bag from Onyx that will look like this. You'll definitely be sure not to miss it. Obtained UTs will now have small loot beams so they can easily be seen amongst the sea of other items from your Triumph. As you may have noticed, all the bags now have brand new sound effects. My favorites by far have to be the red and rune bag. Here is a clip of me obtaining a green bag from the Pirate Cove dungeon. Pretty damn nice, and one thing to note is that the blue potion bag has been axed completely. Here is a list of all of the new bags and their models. As you can see, all of the different tiers of items now have their own bag tiers, and runes have a grey bag, companions have a beautiful yellow and white bag, and the UT bags are as you'd expect them to be, not drastically changed apart from the model. On to the next. Currently, within Telos realms, the bag determines the loot that you will get. The problem with that is that once the game has rolled what you get from that bag, it limits all of the other loot to just basic equipment drops in lower tiers. Now, however, the loot is determined by the bag. This now means exactly what you think it means. You are now able to obtain multiple royal UTs in a royal bag and multiple bloodshot UTs in a bloodshot bag. So yes, we're expecting to see some absolutely diabolical clips posted in the Telos Discord. Now onto the pity system. To put it simply, all items in the game will inevitably drop for you as long as you keep at it. You as the player should not have to go through hundreds of runs in a center dungeon in order to get an item that isn't particularly a big upgrade in the grand scheme of things, when there could just be another upgrade right around the corner. When you kill a boss, you will obtain a point of pity for every UT that drops from that boss. Your pity progress will reset when you obtain the item naturally, so if you're doing a bunch of kobold's dens and you're aiming to obtain the poison, but you get a bag containing the staff, your pity for the poison will not be touched. But what it does mean is that if you're unlucky enough to not obtain any of the 3 items available from Kobold's Den, you will obtain quite a hefty reward upon completing pity. A question you may be thinking to yourself, what about the economy? As it stands, we're going to keep a keen eye on the economy, but there are multiple things to consider here. If you check the auction house right now, will you see one of every purple UT? Probably not. Supply and demand by our calculations shouldn't face too much of a difference. Another great thing about the pity meter is that it does not reset on death, so if you have a bit of a mistake when you're close to filling your meter, you'll still be able to cash in when the time comes. However, it is good to note that these are character bound, so you will not be able to complete all of your ophonims on softcore and then swap to your hardcore, and once again, getting an item will reset its pity meter. Bloodshot UTs will be at 350 pity, and for royal items it will be at 90 or 200 depending if it's a biome center UT or not. Our goal is to have UTs be more common but EXs be more of a feat, but more on that later. The last part of this update is that we will be removing the system of loot bonuses scaling off your damage, so let us try and be open and honest game developers. Why the hell would we consider such a heinous thing? Multiple reasons. A lot of players are not particularly fond of how softcore players can just siphon up their loot chances with absolutely no risk at all. The system made for a very toxic environment, and it made a lot of the community just end up trying to get as little players into the dungeons as possible. Players will often not call any of the events they are on so they can up the chances of getting the item they need for their class. And often players would not feel that it was worth playing with their friends because it wouldn't be nearly as optimal as playing the game alone, which is pretty sad. We've seen a lot of players quit for these very reasons, playing far too risky alone in dungeons which are a lot better suited for a team. Losing their characters and not feeling motivated to play anymore. We hope that implementing such a change can assist in helping Telos feel a bit more like a team game. So how are we compensating for such a change? Well, for one, the aforementioned pity system as well as this. All items will be made a considerable amount more common. However, EX items will be slightly harder to obtain as fragments will be harder to come by. Introducing the Lesser Forge fragment, worth half of a fragment. Glue two of these together and they function the same way as they did before. Center UTs turn into Lesser Forge fragments rather than normal Forge fragments when they are salvaged. Center UTs are now a 1.67% drop rate per bag, meaning that you will have a 5% chance to obtain an item every time you enter a dungeon, which means you'll certainly be obtaining items a lot faster if you're playing alongside your pals. You'll be completing dungeons a lot faster alongside others if everyone is pulling their weight, so you could take the toxicity away from softcore players obtaining a black bag and keep it within your Discord server. Save a softcore. Bully your friends. Oh, actually, never mind. Softcore players no longer get loot callouts. We've taken very careful consideration when making these changes. If there are any concerns that come to mind, leave them in the comments and join the Discord to read the full patch notes.